Thank you. Thank you very much. While now the time for the real thing, we have been listening to all the presentations. Some have been extremely good, some have been reasonably good, but everybody must be thinking what we are going to do at the end of this conference. I think each one of you have spent probably 200 hours of your life to think about the conference,
Thanks, Shivani.
to plan for the conference.
Thank you very much.
And what's the conclusion of these 200 hours? Well, some of the executives, the volunteers, they have spent about 1,000 hours each, some of them much more than that as well. So, with due respect to them and for all your time, I think it's time that we take some decisive actions, plan, proposals. Now, in the beginning, in my presentation, I said the plan has to be quantifiable. You know, I can say I would not waste water. We have been discussing this. I've been discussing with Sonali here. She has been writing the plays. And I said, well, I will not sign this paper because I'm not sure what do I mean personally when I take a bath in Belgium. Is it a waste of water? Or is it a judicious use of water? In India, having a full bathtub with full of water, it's a waste of water, for sure. In Belgium, where there is a rainwater almost 11 months out of 12 months, is it a waste? So we have to be realistic. The plays which we talked about the first day and today in the Grand Pandal, we refer to a place by 11,000 people. And I wanted to make it very simple, something which you can audit, which you can verify, did we just sign or are we following it up? I'll feel happy that let's get a place from 11,000 people over the course of next year. When we do the audit, the next year again, if we have even 5,000 people following, the purpose of this conference is partly served. Now, this is one way of looking. I'm looking things from my point of view. I feel what I can do, what I would be able to do, and what I can follow, I would sign, and I would do this necessary in the place later. In this pledge, which many people have put in their thoughts, we have put 4 points. First, we will not uproot the trees for the sake of environment. We will not discard or sell used books. We would rather pass them to other students. We made it a point, the word students. We will not throw away the used clothes. We would rather pass it to somebody else. And what was the fourth one? Do you remember, Sonali? I want you to be in the picture. So, do you recall? On horns, yes, this is very important. You see, in India, we forget this. Thank you. That the honking of the horn, it's chalta hai. It's taken for granted. If you don't honk, they probably would say, why didn't you honk? I'm walking. It's the other way around in Europe, and it would make a difference. So in the pledge, we have said to reduce the sound pollution, I will not honk unnecessarily. So this is just a starting point. Please don't follow me literally. You have your own ideas. But I'd like that even a simple thing should make a difference. I would say an anecdote, a kind of message which I usually pass it on. A young child, maybe 5-year-old child, was playing on a beach with his father. Millions of fish coming on shore. And the young boy, he picks up each fish, whatever he can hold on, he puts it back on the water. And the father says, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm trying to make these fish happy. And he said, well, there are millions. What can you do? He picked up one and he threw that fish on the water. Well, the life is made for that fish. At least there's a big difference as far as that fish is concerned. So even if it's a small small wow, one step. Sometimes I think we have a management expert, Deepak Jijain. He would tell you simple things adds up to a lot of things in building culture. That's what I do in my company. I don't manage the people, I try to lead them. Simple things, simple things. What can we add up to these simple things? Maybe I'm not good in writing big letters that I would follow these laws, I would be cautious. I think to me, these are prose, these are just a bunch of sentences. I listen all the time. With due respect to our Guruji, our darshan, what we need today is definite, quantifiable objectives. While I see Gordon Anderson is not here, he had prepared a definite, quantifiable objects. Somebody went over to take a copy of his presentations. Maybe he's still looking. You have that copy? He's coming. But what I recall, I'd like him to speak out what he has prepared, that every week I would do this. I would not do this. I would not this. That's another way of thinking. So who is going to be the first brave person to give his own idea? Again, I repeat, I would appreciate quantifiable objects, quantifiable objectives. Narayan Saab, you have some ideas? Well, whilst he's preparing, discussing, while somebody would get ready as well, the floor is open. Well, here is our Maluji Saab, a veteran. We respect him a lot, and he has such a big experience in management, in practical life. Sorry.
Vandana. What Mr. Surendra Board Patawari has been mentioning about the tangible result of the conference and the way he mentioned the small commitments from the heart of everybody. Well, I look back to my life and continue to look now also. I don't find any problem in following all these what he has been telling, which I possibly, unconsciously, has made it a habit in my life. I'm not boasting about it. But from the beginning, from the childhood, if you don't mind my telling the experience, like in the beginning lecture, Kanhaiyalal ji told about his, that we have been given the slate and a slate pencil to write on the slate, not the copies and pencil and write and throw away. We have been wiping the writings on the slate, rewriting, and mind it, we will be given replacement of the slate pencil only once we consume to the last core of that. Like that, it has been the habit of my life that I don't throw away the pencils, it becomes little shorter. I do use it to the last, like that, everything. I don't throw away the paper written on the one side. I've collected 4 papers here also, printed on one side. I'll go home, try to use them to write on the back of it. And this has been my habit from the beginning. I don't know whether this requires any wow. It requires the intuition to use it like that. It's not a one example, hundreds of examples. In my career, sorry to say, you may tell me a miser person, that I have been a commercial executive for 37 years in one organization.
So when you were there, what specific action would you like us to take?
Well,
specific action which you feel we should bring in here.
First, foremost cardinal principle is use everything in your life, small or big, to the last core of that utility. I never requisitioned the jam clips and pins in my organization, which were open to everybody if I have consumed that. But I collected it from the incoming dart and papers and used that to the last. Right. This is very small things, but it becomes a habit, mind it, which continues my still. I won't throw away the shoes because little bit it has become disoriented or disfigured. I try to use it, people may laugh at me that he is a very miser thing. But I don't know. It is my habit, and nobody disrespects me. Even the great man, Mr. Surendra Patawari, like that. I can't give hundreds of my habit examples, but it's a waste of time. Examples I've said.
All right. Thank you, Dadosa. Well, I repeat, I'd like to have input from as many people as you possible. Anderson, you have your paper, you found it?
5 minutes.
All right, we have time. 5 minutes for sure, but not too long. Thank you. Well, you have some suggestion. Before we move on, I'd like that, let's come right on the top. What's quantifiable things we can do? I know many of you would have ideas, and I'd like to have input from as many people as possible, particularly from the delegates, so you feel that you came all the way and you contributed to the final, should I call it declaration or commitment? I'm not clear in my mind, but that's irrelevant. It's just words. It has to be quantifiable, definite proposals. Well, we have 3 people right now. So first we have Dr. Daffern. I'll come back to you. I think we have to keep in mind the time parameters, the restrictions. I feel right now we are almost at 1:40. I'm holding you back from your lunch, but I think this is the best suggestion. Until what time would you like us to continue this? I can continue for 1 day, but please tell me until what time would you prefer that we can continue for another 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, please. Well, let me hear from them. You are our guest. Is 1 hour too late for your lunch? Is that fine? Thank you. Thank you. Well, then, let's see that each one, please be a little bit precise, quantify.
Everyone for such a wonderful conference. My offering, the thing I've brought to share, is based on 8 previous conferences in Jaipur with Dr. S.L. Gandhi, and initially Acharya Tulsi himself was involved in initiating a sequence of international conferences on how peace and nonviolence can radiate in every area of our lives. And this culminated in January in Jaipur. I was with several other people who are here in this conference, and I was asked to produce a final declaration which was in the form of a 9-petaled flower. Now, it's not very clear here, but you see there's 9 petals, each of which has writing on it, and each of which stands for a different area of our collective lives. This is a document not so much about our individual activities, but collectively, what we as a planet can do. And the 5th petal concerns science and ecology, which I feel is one of the major themes of this conference. And I'm going to read this petal out. It's very short. And I think that it could be made quantifiable. I'll go away inspired by this event, and I'll try and quantify how we can measure progress on this. Okay, so, and it's written in the form of anuvrats. It's written in the form of little vows that scientists can take around the planet, okay, and technologists. Right, so we vow to abstain from scientific research based on violent experimentation against animals or humans. We vow to acquire and use our scientific knowledge to help advance human well-being, happiness, and moral intelligence, and to free mankind from the threats and fear of violence. We vow to develop social and natural sciences conducive towards a planetary civilization capable of peace. We vow to end the huge expenditures on scientific research for military weapons and defense, and to see instead a shift of expenditure towards socially beneficial sciences for social and ecological development in a world based on peace and non-violence. We vow to work for a world in which all universities have more funding available for peace-oriented scientific research than for military-oriented scientific research. We vow to assist the development of a career path for science graduates who wish to abstain from all military and defense-related scientific employment and who choose instead to take a vow of scientific non-violence. We vow not to harm or pollute nature and to abstain from all acts of violence against Mother Earth, and to develop green, sustainable, and non-invasive technologies that can work in harmony with natural environmental systems. We vow to develop alternative sources of energy that are non-polluting and non-harmful to nature. We vow to refrain from activities which destabilize weather systems. We vow to refrain from cruelty to animals. We vow to use our scientific knowledge to work for harmony and peace between humanity and nature. Okay, so that's a summary. Each of those has huge implications. I will go away and think about how to quantify it. I've worked with groups in Britain. They're trying to produce like a Hippocratic oath for science graduates. When you get a PhD as a scientist or a doctorate of science, you should be asked to take like a Hippocratic oath that you won't misuse your knowledge to make chemical weapons, biological weapons, this kind of thing. And I've already produced, there's a book that goes with the declaration, which I produced, which has got footnotes. So that text I read out, there's about 5 pages of detailed footnotes. So that's my offering to this conference. And thank you again for, the detail that we've looked at. Thank you.